welcome back to my channel. My name is Amanda. Today we are going to be doing a very spoilery review of, Children of Blood and Bone, or as my book club has been referring to it as, Kobab. I mean, I don't think that's actually how anyone is saying it in their heads. I think everyone is just saying C-O-B-A-B, but it's really fun to say. Try it with me, children. Kobab! I decided to tab this entire book while I was reading it so that we could try to do a different type of spoilery review. So I don't normally do spoilery. I don't normally tell spoilers in my reviews. That was really hard to say. I don't normally tell spoilers in my reviews. I try to do non-spoilery reviews all the time so that anyone could watch the videos, and really what I'm trying to do with my channel is spread news about books. But I feel like every single person on BookTube, watching BookTube, not even related to BookTube, has read this book already, and I am just like really late to the gang. So I thought maybe we give it a shot, see how this video turns out. If we like it, if we love it, give it a like, and I'll know to possibly do more of these videos in the future. Let me know if you'd like me to do this kind of a video with the sequel as well, because I'd love to do it if you guys would love to watch it. Let's get started. I'm not going to be giving you guys a summary because we're going to be basically rereading this book right now based on my tabs. First, let me tell you all what these tabs mean. So the purple tabs, which should be the most because I went through a whole pack plus some of the purple, are important moments in the book. They also oftentimes were like moments I liked something but not necessarily like loved it. The pink tabs are things that I loved, and the yellow tabs are things that I hated. And you can't see a lot of them. I think it's kind of hard to see some of the yellow ones, but there are quite a few yellows, there are quite a few pinks, and there are a lot of purple. I don't think I'm going to talk about every single one of these tabs, especially because a few of the pinks are just like, oh, that was a really cool sentence, I like what she did there. So I probably won't be sharing most of those with you, but I will say that overall I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars. I generally liked the characters. There were some I really liked and some I disliked. We'll talk about that as we get into it. The writing was not super great. It was like anti-flowery. It was so to the point and so this is what happened that it made me miss reading books like Strange the Dreamer, honestly. So I didn't get many points for that. I felt like the thing that made this book so fantastic was the world building and the atmosphere, and I think that most of the tabs that are purple or pink are going to be tabs about the world building and the atmosphere. Although I will say that there were definitely some moments that I felt like I needed the author to go more in depth with some explanation. I didn't take the dust jacket off the entire time I was reading the book. It's also gonna be hard for me to figure out the order of these tabs. So the very first thing that the book starts out on is we get to meet this girl named, I was calling her Zelly. I listened to the audiobook for like 5 sentences so I could hear all of the characters' names, but I don't think that's actually how her name is pronounced, and I don't remember how it was pronounced, but I'm gonna keep saying Zelly. We're just gonna hope that I'm somewhat close with that one. So the book starts out with Zelly being like in this like all-woman gang of trained women who are practicing with like basically bow staffs in this tent to protect themselves and anyone they care about. And what was really cool is the woman who was training them was not only training them in self-defense, but was also training them in when to fight, who to fight, and to remember like who your enemies are, kind of a thing. There was a really cool line near the beginning of the book that used a Sigma, and if you don't know what that is, look it up right now because it is my favorite use of the English language and I think it's so cool. And so like, go look it up. I'm not telling you what it was. So after we kind of get used to Zelly doing her thing, we find out a little bit about her. She has a brother that she is living with. They live with their father. Her mother is dead. Her dad has some issue going on that by the end of the book, I'm still not totally sure what it is, but I believe he has like dementia or Alzheimer's or something where basically he forgets certain things and tries to do stuff that is like beyond his means. So he ends up in a lot of trouble. Zelly does have white hair, and I should mention, in case you don't know, all of the characters in this book are black. It is taking place, I believe, in Western Africa. So for her to have like white hair is going to stand out. And basically people with white hair are people who have the ability to use magic. They're called magi, and when she was young, magic was stripped from the land, and so no one can use magic anymore. When they can use magic, I believe, is when they're called diviners, and her mother was one of them. So that's important to note because later we're going to have some issues with that fact. I like Sigmas. Moving on. After you meet Zelly, you meet this other girl named Amari, and she has, I believe that it was described as like lighter brown, like red brown skin. She is a royal, and you meet her. She's the princess of the land. She's not super happy in her position. Basically, she's bossed around all the time. Her only friend is this girl named Binta. Oh my goodness, I really should have marked that. First chapter we meet her, she's at this like brunch with her mom, and she finds out that like Binta was called away by the king, and she's like, oh my god, my dad never calls people away. And we know that Binta is a magi, and so she sneaks into the throne room where she sees this head soldier bring in this magical scroll that's like supposed to bring magic back, or was like the reason why they got rid of magic, and they let Binta touch it to see what will happen, and she gets her powers back, so the king kills her. And Amari's real upset. She's like, oh my god, my dad just killed my only friend. What am I gonna do? And she basically like starts to blame herself for the death of her friend. And so she steals the scroll. They like set it down in a side room, and she steals it and goes on the run. In the like small town where Zelly is living, they started putting a tax on magi. So if you're a magi, you are owing them more money, and she needs to earn some money. So her and her brother, whose name is a word, her and her brother Zane go to sell this big beautiful like rainbow fish at the market, which is like in the capital. And so they go on this nice little journey to the capital to sell this fish. While they're there, you see the relationship between the two siblings. It's very accurate to siblings who are not like super close to each other. So my brother and I are very distant in age, and I think that a lot of their interactions were kind of similar, even though I think that the two of them were close in age. You kind of get this gap between a lot of siblings who have lost a parent because either they bond close together or they like separate a lot, and so that is totally accurate. So while they're there getting this rainbow fish sold, Zelly runs into Amari and doesn't know it's the princess, and Amari's like, you gotta get me out of this place because the whole entire palace is coming to, basically she thinks to kill her because she stole this scroll. Zelly helps her escape, and while they're escaping, they run into my favorite character. Where's that boy at? Oh my god, this is a lot of chapter of her just selling a fish. So while they're trying to escape, they run into Amari's brother, whose name is Anan. I think that's how you pronounce it. He is the crown prince, of course, and he has been sent to capture the person who stole the scroll because he doesn't know it's his sister yet. And so they run into him, and he starts feeling real funky after they run into him. He's like, boy, my fingers are tingling, and I just feel weak, and I don't know what's going on with me. Amari and Zelly's brother, Zane, escape the city together. The two siblings find out that Amari is the princess, and she is like, don't kill me, don't blame me for this, but like, I'm not my dad. He took magic away. I'm trying to bring it back. I got this handy dandy piece of paper. Let's go do something with it. So they take her back to her hometown, Zelly's hometown, and they meet with the woman who was teaching her like how to fight in the beginning of the story. And while they're talking with her, the Prince Anan comes and burns down the entire village, and they barely escape with her father and their friends. Like, a few people survive, and basically the woman comes forward and is like, our town is gone and everyone is dying, but I need to tell you that I am actually a magi myself. And Zelly's like, hun, you don't have white hair. The woman is like, yes, because I got cancer and I lost all my hair, so no one knows that I'm a magi, but like, I'll touch the scroll and I have the ability to see the future. That is my magic power. So I will see the future and see where you guys need to go so that you can bring magic back to everyone. Everyone agrees to this. But for some reason, Zelly like still isn't really touching the scroll, and she like hasn't gotten her magic back. I think she touched it and felt like a little funky and was like, no, I don't like this at all. And so she is like avoiding the scroll. And this is where we run into my first issue with the book. The first time we see Zelly using her magic is when they get to this temple where the woman told them to go to return magic. And Zelly starts to use her magic for the first time. And I was really frustrated because the first time we see her using her magic, we're in one of Amari's chapters. So like the first time we get to experience real magic in the book, we didn't get to be the person experiencing the magic, and that just seems dumb. To be fair, in the very next chapter, Zelly gets to use magic. We get to see it. It's a way better, way cooler magic than the chapter before, but like that was dumb and I kind of hated it. So then they run into this man named something. He has a name too. I just don't remember what it was. Was it like, it was Laken. Laken. So they run into this man named Laken. He basically kidnaps them and knocks them unconscious and then is like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know who you were. Come in. Let me give you tea and give you a bath in blood and I'm gonna reawaken your magic, Zelly, because if I reawaken your magic, you can go and find these other 2 magical items that we need to do this like ritual so that we can bring magic back to the entire land. And Zelly's like, okay, yeah, sounds good. And so he does this, and basically he's saying like, I will connect Zelly to the Sky Mother, so she is the only person who can complete the ritual. And I'm the only person that knows how to connect her to the Sky Mother, so like, if I don't connect anyone else to the Sky Mother, we won't be able to do it, and Zelly will be the only person who can do the ritual. And you know what? You'd have to be an idiot not to realize that he's gonna die in 2 chapters, because he died, and I marked it as yellow because I was like, this is so dumb. Of course he's gonna die. That was so predictable, and I don't like it, and it's gross. So then there was also this point before he dies where he's talking to them and he's like, hey, my dudes, it's great that you came to this castle. It's so important that you came to this temple. We're gonna bring magic back. And they're like, yeah, it's kind of weird though that we were brought here. And he's like, it was weird for me too, because I wasn't actually at this temple before now. I was off somewhere else doing my own thing. And then just like, I had this like feeling that I should return to the temple. And I didn't like that because like, that seems so ex machina to like bring this character in for 1 chapter to like do some magic heebie-jeebie and then kill him off so he can't do it ever again. Like, not a fan of that. He's dead now. He dies because the general who's with Enan shows up and they're like, oh, we found the people that we were hunting. Let's kill them. And they only get this old man and the other people get away, and then the bridge collapses, so the whole entire like military gets stuck at the temple while like our band of merry men continue on to the next location where they are trying to get an object called the Sunstone. They're headed off. Anon is stuck at the temple. Is that his name or is it Enan? It might be Enan. I'm gonna keep calling him Anon. He's stuck at the temple and he starts to get a white stripe in his hair and he starts having the ability to talk in like dreams to Zelly, but only Zelly, because let me tell ya, this whole entire book wants to argue that they are destined for each other and tries to fight the fact that Zelly and Amari are actually supposed to be together. Like, they were made for each other. I'm sorry. That was a dumb relationship to put like the 2 like hetero people together, because like the relationships between the 2 were the same exact relationship. And in case you're wondering, yeah, what I'm saying is Zelly's brother, Zane, gets into a relationship with Amari, and Amari's brother, Inan, is what we're calling him, gets into a relationship with Zelly, and it's just like this same relationship, and it was boring, and I didn't care about it. Let the girls be together. They were so much more interesting. Nan is basically like, okay, well, let's fix this bridge. I'm going to not tell anyone that I have magical abilities. I'm gonna wear a hat at all times so no one sees my hair is turning white, and I'm gonna go into this temple, and I'm gonna like voodoo into Zelly's mind so I know where they're going, so as soon as the bridge is complete, we can follow them, get there, and hopefully kill them. And Zelly and her band of dudes is off to this like desert city where they can find the sandstone. It's not a sandstone, it's a sunstone. I don't know why they knew to go there. I think Laken told them to go there and get it, so real ex machina moment there. They're heading out. We get some more information on Amari, which is good. She's like a princess but didn't want to be. Yeah, we get the point. The band gets to this city and the city is awful. They've captured all of the magi in the land. They're charging them to live. They're charging them to drink water. They're charging them basically to build everything there. They find out that there's basically like this gladiator pit where they like fill it up with water every day and put a bunch of the magi on boats to fight each other to the death, and then whoever wins will get the sunstone. But like no one's won yet because everyone dies in it. Zelly's like, cool, we know where the sunstone is, so we'll wait till the gladiator fight is over and then we'll sneak into that man's office and get it back. And while they're trying to sneak in to get the item, they come across this little boy who's like wandering the halls, and the guards hear him and they come out, start to kill this boy. And so Zelly runs out and is like, don't kill that little boy. We were making the noise because we don't know where to sign up for that gladiator fight. We want to fight in it. So she does this because she feels bad that like this guard is physically destroying this little boy's body. But I felt like that wasn't super in character for her because she's very much a I'm gonna take care of myself and my people kind of a person. Whereas Amari watched her best friend die in front of her, and now she's watching this little helpless boy die in front of her. And I just feel like that scene should have been Amari coming forward and being like, don't kill that little boy, and then being like, oh crap, why are we here? We're here to sign up to fight. Yeah. So I just wish that scene would have like flipped which characters were making decisions, especially because in the next few scenes Amari is like downplayed so much by the other characters. She's kind of shat on, honestly. They go to fight. Of course they win, but what happens is Zane is being like a gentleman, and he's like, Amari, you don't need to fight. You're a princess. You don't need to do it. I'll protect you. I'm a man. And she's like, no. My dad taught me how to fight, my dude. She freezes out on the water at one point, causing some horrible issues to happen, and Zane is like, girl, I don't trust you anymore. Even though she unfreezes and kills the man that is trying to kill Zane, saving his life. And he's just kind of like, whatever, give her some slack. Especially because you guys are supposed to be a couple. Like, I don't believe it for 1 second. You two have way too many issues going on to be a couple. To get the sunstone, Zelly has to like spark all of her magical abilities. And this is when we really get to see like what she's capable of. And so she has the ability to basically commune with the dead / control the dead. So she like resurrects in this like gladiator pit because lots of bodies have died here, so there's lots of souls trapped. Because in this world what was really cool was god system is that there are 10 gods, I believe, and each of them gifts one power to their magi group. And so as a magi you don't know what gift you're going to get, but you are going to get the gift that your parent had most likely. So Zelly knew that her mom was a reaper, so she was going to be a reaper. So she also knows that if a soul dies or if a body dies when there is like excruciating pain or some horrible circumstances happening, then the soul can't like pass on to the afterlife and they're stuck in this like in-between realm. And she has the ability to like basically get those souls and allow them to use their pain to act out into the world, and by doing that they're allowed to ascend on to heaven, it seems. So she grabs all these souls to help them win the battle. It's really cool. She actually messes up at one point and like can't get total control, and she starts to use blood magic. So we see that there's also this thing called blood magic, which by the end of the book I still don't totally know like a ton about it, but I know that it weakens you a lot. So she almost dies, but then she doesn't die. She gets the sunstone, and the sunstone awakens some like crazy powerful abilities in her, but like only when she's touching it. Magic is gone, but she starts using magic to fight. And there's like this whole other stand of people watching her fight. And there's like an announcer, and like no one comments on the fact that she's using magic to win. Does no one see it? Is no one noticing that like this girl down here is using magic? And then she won? Are we not going to talk about that? After they get the sunstone, Anon is like dreamscaping, inceptioning Zelly again, and while they're together in this dreamscape, she like strips, I don't know if it's totally naked, but like at least naked on the top, and jumps in the water. And you know what? I'm like all for women being free with their bodies, non-sexualizing that stuff, that's great. We are in Anand's head and he is totally sexualizing her the entire time. He even says she makes it impossible not to stare. If we'd had this chapter where she's like being free and not having like this male gaze on her, I would have been like, yes, this is wonderful. But instead we have this chapter where she's being free and this man is like objectifying her, and I didn't love that. So they like dreamscape together, and really nothing happens in their dreamscape except for her being, you have a gift, haha, you're gonna die because your dad hates magi, and him being like, I'm not a magi, what are you talking about? I'm gonna kill magic and then my dad will never know. I will just continue on with my life, eventually taking the crown and killing all magi after me, even though I'm not one of them myself. Congrats, yeah, bye, you're dead. So they like fight a lot in the dreamscape, and that's pretty much it. And then another issue I had is the fact that the Prince Anand has magic, and it is clearly said in the beginning of the book that magic is passed down the line from family member to family member. But we know who his mom is, we know who his dad is. Maybe his dad is actually someone different, but they never explain how he got magic, and they never explain why he like didn't have magic the first part of his life, but why he has magic later on. I mean, they mentioned that he was carrying around this like stone that blocked his powers all of his life, but they didn't say if that was why he didn't get white hair, and I don't know why a stone would keep you from getting white hair. And even on page 346, Amari is talking with him and she's like, how is that possible? And he says, I don't know. And then the book doesn't address it anymore. That's literally the excuse they give to us about how he got magic. A band of merry men travel from the desert village back kind of towards, they know they need to go to this island. They have like all the items they need now. I kind of forget how they get the dagger, but they have the dagger. Go to this island. While they're on their way there, they stop to have like a nice little relaxation moment. And it's a really happy scene where they're all like hanging out in the water and dancing, seeing water for the first time in a few days, and it's really nice. And of course, while they're having this like grand happy moment, something bad has to happen, and Anand shows up. I'm gonna kill you. And they're like, where's your general? And he's like, I'm not gonna tell you. But we know from a previous chapter that he actually killed her because she found out that he was a magi. So she's dead. And while he was killing her, he like saw into her head and saw that his dad had an affair with her. We also know though that like this is his dad's second family because his first family was killed by magi a long time ago. So I guess the mom is just okay with the dad like doing whatever he wants at this point because he's like mentally messed up. I don't know. It was weird. The general's dead. Anand starts to fight Zelly and they are pretty evenly matched. Of course, some weird masked like ninjas pop up out of nowhere and take Amari and their steed and Tizane. That just means that like while Zelly is trying to kill Anand, they realize, oh my god, our families are gone! And they stop fighting each other and start working together to try to get their families back. When they're trying to get their families back, these like masked bandits start torturing Zane to try to get information out of Amari as to why she has this magical scroll on her. And all of the people in this ninja fortress are magi. And so she tells them the truth and they don't believe her, so the torture gets worse. Zelly and Anand show up at the front door. Let us in! We're gonna kill all of you! And they get in and the people instantly, oh my god, we're so sorry that we hurt you. We didn't mean to do that. We didn't know who you were. Okay, let's give you all these supplies and all these resources and we're gonna send like some fighters along with you to get you to this island so you can return magic. But not tonight, because tonight we're gonna have a party. Of course, while that party's going on, not only do we see Zelly and Anand get together finally, but we also see Tizane and Amari start to be a couple, and he gets really mad at his sister for being with that dude, so he's about to run off. Tizane is yelling at Ellie, and he's saying stuff about the fact that she is kind of interested in Anand, and so he shouts at her, you're always screwing everything up, why stop now? And I really hated that because the whole entire book starts out with her screwing up because she leaves her dad alone so that she can go fight, and he goes and almost drowns. The rest of the book tries to play Zelly as this character who screws everything up and messes things up. Like she goes to the market to sell the fish and then accidentally gets the princess, and then she comes back to her village to try to tell them about it, and then the prince comes and burns it down. But I don't think that any of that was actually her fault, and I don't think that she should be blamed for screwing things up because she also gets them to the temple and gets her magic back. She also helps them in the gladiator pit and saves their lives. She also helps protect both of them multiple times. She also breaks her brother and the princess out of that like ninja fortress and saves them. And then he just turns to her and is like, you always screw everything up. And she's like, you're right, I do. And I'm like, no, you don't. Hun, have some value for yourself. You are not the one screwing things up. He's like, you liked Zane, and that's bad because he's a royal. Zelly is like, you like Amari, how is it any different? And then Zane is like, because she's not a killer. She didn't burn our village to the ground. And I'm like, okay, yeah, she didn't burn your village to the ground, but she is a killer, and we know that. And she killed someone to save your life. So like, Zane, that's not a good argument. You need to shut up. He is an irritating character, and I don't like him. These soldiers show up from the king and capture everyone except for Zane, Amari. And so Zelly is taken to the capital where she is tortured. And the king is like, I'll figure out your secrets, ya maggot, because that's the word that they use as like a slur for magi. And so he carves that word into her back with a knife. And while he's doing this, she like loses touch with her magic. And so of course her brother and the princess come and save her with the help of some other people. I'm skipping over a large chunk of the book right there because I felt like it was really unimportant. And so they save her. Anon stays with his dad though. She doesn't have magic but doesn't tell anyone. So they find these pirates who help them get to the island so that they can bring magic back. Right when they get to the island, they see that Anon and the king are there already, and they've captured Zane and Zelly's father, Baba. Give us the scroll and we'll give you your dad. Zelly does some like trading some stuff around, doesn't give them everything. They think they've gotten everything, and they kill her dad anyways. Random shit goes down. A lot of people die. So Zelly attacks Anon, kills him, and accidentally destroys the scroll in the process. While all of that happens, some magic stuff happens in like her head where she thinks that she's gonna be able to return to her family, and it's kind of a sad moment. No, hun, you need to go back to Earth and fight some more. When she gets back there, she's like, oh no, we messed up, we didn't return magic. And Amari shows up in front of her with white hair. Oh boy, but something else happened. So the end of the book actually made me quite happy. I like that the author had the balls enough to kill off one of the main characters. If he's not actually dead, I might have to take that away because like, it felt so good. It felt good to actually have someone die. Even if I did really like that character and he might possibly be my favorite character, it was like, good, you're making a decision and you're sticking with it. Then we also, right before Zelly kills Anon, there's this whole entire part where like his helmet falls off and his dad realizes that his son is a magi. And the dad is like faced with this moment of truth where he has to decide whether or not he's going to accept his son, and he doesn't accept his son. And I marked that as a positive because I really enjoy reading about hard moments like that and watching characters have to deal with stuff like that. And for that to be his last interaction with his dad before he dies was so gripping and so hard, and it was just powerful. And I really enjoyed reading something so strong in a YA fantasy book. I think that that kind of stuff is where this book stands out versus other YA books, is Tomi Adeyemi really like dug in and wasn't afraid to make things rough for characters. Whole entire friendship that grows between Amari and Zelly, and so I almost regret saying that I want them to be a couple together because I always want more positive female-female friendships. I think that they are so important and shown in an effective way. It's really great. And I do see how Amari starts to look at Zelly as like a replacement for Binta. But there's this part at the end of the book where Amari is seeing Zelly like being tortured, and she sees her father going to like kill Zelly, and she like gets this flashback to when he killed Binta. That is the moment where she acts up and decides to step forward and kill her father. And I think that that moment was very powerful and I loved it. But I think that moment would have been even stronger if the author had done what I said earlier, where she had had Amari be the one to come forward and like rescue that little boy, because she could have had the flash there where she like saw Binta being killed and she saw that little boy being killed, and then she didn't do anything then, but maybe then it was like she couldn't save him, but this time she can save the person who is being hurt by her father. That scene was really good as is, but I think it could have just been a little bit stronger from that. Amari is faced with her dad dying, and she's kind of like dealing with it, and he is like hating on her. She just looks at him as he's dying, and she says to him, "Don't worry, I will make a far better queen." It was so powerful, and seeing her like actually step up against him. I really liked Amari's character in this book. I think it's odd because oftentimes when I look back on characters I love in books, it's not the softer characters who are like dealing with grief or dealing with abuse who are trying to overcome it. It's the strong, cocky characters who are like dealing with things in more like sarcastic ways, I guess. And there was just something about Amari where she was so soft yet so strong that I couldn't help but love her as a character. Whereas like Zelly, on the other hand, was so rough and I just couldn't like her. But she did grow on me as the time went on in the book, and I did find a place for her in my heart. Whereas Anon, I didn't love everything he was doing, but I loved him as a character. Those are the three POVs, and that's kind of how I felt about each of them. The only character I didn't learn to like was Zane, and unfortunately he's not dead, so he's coming back in the next book. While I had many complaints about this book, almost all of my complaints were wrapped up or because of the plot. There were a few complaints about Zane and some of the choices he makes as a character, but most of them were around the plot, having things be ex machina, having things not be explained to me exactly, just kind of general things being ignored, or like things happening one way when we need them to happen, but then not another time when we don't need them to happen. But I think the characters were golden. I think the atmosphere was absolutely fantastic. I really loved it. I would recommend this to fans of YA fantasy, and even some people who maybe aren't super fans of YA fantasy but want to try to get into the genre a little bit more. I think this is a good one to try because it's not super tropey and it's not super stereotypical YA fantasy. You get the gist of how YA fantasy works without getting the same old that you would in other books. Thanks for watching. Let me know down below if you've read this book, what you thought of it, what you rated it, if any of my claims are made inappropriately, or if you have some answers for me. Don't spoil the second book. I'm about to read it, and hopefully it'll have some answers for some of the questions I had in this book. I don't remember how my outro goes, but until next time, I'll talk to you all in the comments. Bye!